Imagine finding yourself in a plummeting plane or lost in the ocean with no sign of rescue. For most, these would be the final moments. The heart pounds, the breath catches in your throat, and fear threatens to overwhelm you. But deep within the human spirit lies an incredible will to live, a primal instinct to survive against all odds. And some incredible individuals have stared death in the face and emerged victorious. Today we're sharing some of their unbelievable stories. Our first story takes us to the heart of the Amazon, a vast, unforgiving expanse of emerald green. It's 1971, Christmas Eve. A young woman, just 17 years old, finds herself in a fight for her life. This is the story of Julianne Köpke. Julianne was on a flight with her mother, soaring above the dense jungle canopy when disaster struck. Lightning ripped through the plane, tearing it from the sky. Imagine the terror, the sheer chaos as the world turned upside down. 10,000 feet. That's the distance Julianne fell, strapped to her seat amidst the wreckage of the plane. The impact should have killed her, yet by some miracle she survived. Injured, alone, and surrounded by the unforgiving jungle, Julianne's ordeal was far from over. The jungle was alive, teeming with danger at every turn. Predators lurked in the shadows, and the humid air was thick with the threat of infection. But Julianne, drawing on a wellspring of strength she never knew she possessed, began to move. She remembered her father's advice, a seasoned explorer who had taught her the ways of the jungle. Following rivers she knew would lead her to civilization. And so she walked day after day, her body battered, her spirit unbroken. For 10 long days she battled the jungle, her determination fueled by the memory of her mother and the hope of rescue. Just when her strength was fading, a flicker of hope appeared on the horizon. Local hunters deep in the rainforest stumbled upon the young woman, her body racked with exhaustion and hunger. They had seen the wreckage of the plane and knew the odds of finding a survivor were slim to none. Yet there she was, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humankind. The ocean, vast and unforgiving, holds countless stories within its depths, tales of adventure, of mystery, and of survival against insurmountable odds. This is the story of one such man, a Chinese sailor named Poon Lim who stared death in the face and refused to blink. Picture this, 1942, the height of World War II. Poon Lim is sailing across the Atlantic, a world away from home, when disaster strikes. A German U-boat, a silent predator of the depths, surfaces near his merchant ship. The air cracks with the deafening roar of torpedoes, and in an instant Poon Lim's world is reduced to fire, chaos, and the icy grip of the Atlantic. He manages to scramble onto a life raft, a tiny speck of wood bobbing precariously on the surface of the vast ocean. He's alone, adrift in a watery wilderness, thousands of miles from land. The sun beats down mercilessly, the salt air stings his lungs, and the ocean stretches endlessly in every direction. Days turn into nights, and nights bleed into days. The vastness of the sea becomes Poon Lim's prison. His meager supplies dwindle with each passing hour. Hunger gnaws at his belly, a constant companion to his loneliness. But Poon Lim is a survivor. He knows that despair is a luxury he cannot afford. He must adapt, improvise, overcome. He fashions fishing hooks from scraps of metal, using his bare hands to catch fish that dart beneath the surface. He collects rainwater in a canvas sheet, his only source of hydration under the relentless sun. He faces down storms that threaten to swallow his tiny raft whole, riding out towering waves that crash over him, stealing his breath. He even survives encounters with sharks, those apex predators of the deep, drawn to his vulnerable craft. He fights them off with the ferocity of a man who has nothing left to lose, armed with only his bare hands and an unyielding will to live. For 133 days, Poon Lim endures. He is pulled from the sea, his skin ravaged by the sun and salt, his body emaciated, but his eyes burning with the unquenchable fire of life. The Andes Mountains, a majestic and unforgiving landscape, stand as a testament to the raw power of nature. It was amidst these towering peaks, in the unforgiving grip of winter, that a group of young men faced a fight for survival that would test the very limits of human endurance. October 13, 1972. A plane carrying a Uruguayan rugby team and their families crashes into a remote mountainside. The impact is deafening. the wreckage strewn across the snow-covered slopes like a forgotten child's toy. Of the 45 souls on board, only 16 survived the initial impact. Injured, freezing and stranded at over 11,000 feet, they are surrounded by a desolate wilderness of ice and rock. The world mourned, believing them lost to the unforgiving mountains. But hope, however faint, flickered in the hearts of those stranded on that frozen mountainside. They huddled together for warmth in the shattered fuselage of the plane, their only shelter against the biting wind and plummeting temperatures. Their food supplies were meager, consisting of nothing more than a few chocolate bars, a jar of jam and a handful of wine. Days turned into weeks, and the survivors clung to life, their bodies growing weaker with each passing hour. The biting cold seeped into their bones, and hunger gnawed at their bellies. They knew that rescue was unlikely. The crash site was remote, hidden amongst the treacherous peaks, a needle in a haystack of ice and snow. Faced with the stark reality of their situation, they made a decision that would haunt them forever. A decision born of desperation and driven by the primal instinct to survive. They would consume the bodies of their deceased companions, their flesh and blood, a macabre source of sustenance, the only thing standing between them and certain death. They lived like this, trapped in a frozen wasteland for 72 agonizing days. Then on December 22nd, after what felt like an eternity, a glimmer of hope emerged from the blinding whiteness. Two of the survivors, Roberto Canessa and Nando Parado, weakened but driven by an indomitable will, set out on a desperate trek for help. The ocean can be a cruel and unforgiving mistress, her depths holding secrets that most will never know. For Harrison O'Keefe, a Nigerian cook, the ocean became a watery tomb, a place of darkness, fear, and ultimately miraculous survival. May 26, 2013. Harrison is aboard the Jascon 4 off the coast of Nigeria. A sudden violent storm whips up, tossing the tugboat around like a child's toy. The boat capsizes, sinking beneath the waves, dragging Harrison and the rest of the crew down with it. The ocean closes over him, a cold, dark embrace. He's trapped, plunged into a world of silence, the only sound the frantic thumping of his own heart. In the engine room, he finds an air pocket, a tiny bubble of life in a watery grave. Divers are sent down to search for the wreckage, not expecting survivors. Harrison gathers his strength and hammers on the metal, a desperate plea for help. The divers hear it, a faint tapping, like a ghost knocking from the other side. The Australian outback, a vast sun-scorched expanse of red dirt, spinifex grass, and unforgiving wilderness. It's a land of stark beauty and hidden dangers where survival is a testament to human resilience and resourcefulness. This is the story of Ricky Magee, a man who stared death in the face in the heart of the outback and emerged victorious. 2006, Ricky Magee, a young Australian, is driving through the outback, miles from civilization, when his car breaks down. Stranded under the scorching sun, his supplies dwindling, he makes a decision that will change his life forever. He'll set out on foot, determined to find help. He has no way of knowing that this journey will become a 71-day fight for survival. The outback sun beats down relentlessly, the temperature soaring well over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. The air is thick with flies, and the ground beneath his feet is baked hard as rock. He rations his meager food and water, knowing that it won't last long. But the outback has other plans for Ricky Magee. Days turn into nights, and the vastness of the outback closes in around him. He's alone, surrounded by a sea of red dirt and spinifex grass. His only companions, the creatures that call this harsh land home. Dehydration sets in, sapping his strength, making his head pound and his vision blur. Hunger gnaws at his belly, a constant reminder of his dwindling resources. But Ricky Magee is a survivor. He remembers his grandfather's stories, tales of survival in the Australian bush, and he puts those lessons into practice. He learns to find water, digging for moisture in dry creek beds and following the flight of birds to hidden watering holes. He eats what he can, foraging for edible plants, grubs, and even leeches, anything to keep himself alive. He encounters snakes, their scales glinting menacingly in the sun, and wild dogs, their eyes glowing in the darkness. He learns to avoid them, using his wits and his instincts to stay one step ahead. He builds makeshift shelters from branches and leaves, seeking refuge from the scorching sun and the freezing desert nights. These stories remind us that even in the darkest of times, hope and resilience can carry us through. These people survived not just because of luck, but because of an unbreakable will to live. They faced down death, stared into the abyss, and emerged victorious. Their stories are a source of inspiration, a testament to the incredible strength of the human spirit. Let us know in the comments if you'd like to hear more incredible survival tales. And remember, no matter what challenges life throws your way, never give up hope. The will to live is a powerful force, one that can see you through even the most desperate of circumstances.